Why does one country in Europe seem to resist the political and cultural changes transforming the rest of the continent? Across Western Europe, traditional values have been fading for decades. Religion has declined. National identity has become a complicated conversation. Politics has shifted toward liberal social policies. And yet, one nation continues to stand apart, a country where faith still shapes public life, where family policy remains central to politics, and where debates about sovereignty and tradition are not relics of the past, but part of everyday political reality. That country is Poland. But here's the real question. Is Poland truly Europe's last conservative power? Or is something deeper happening beneath the surface? Because the story behind Poland's political identity is not just about ideology. It's about history, survival, and the unique experiences that shaped a nation unlike any other in Europe. To understand modern Poland, the story cannot start with politics. It must start with history. Few countries in Europe have experienced what Poland endured. For more than a century, Poland didn't exist on the map. The country was partitioned by neighboring empires in the late 18th century, erased entirely by Partitions of Poland. For generations, Polish language, culture, and identity survived without a state. Schools secretly taught Polish history. Families preserved traditions inside their homes. Churches became guardians of national identity. When Poland finally regained independence in 1918, after World War I, the victory felt almost miraculous. But that independence didn't last long. Just 20 years later, the country was invaded from two sides during World War II, by Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. Millions of citizens died, cities were destroyed, the country was devastated. And when the war ended, Poland did not regain full freedom. Instead, it fell under communist control backed by Moscow. For the next 4 decades, the Polish people lived inside a political system imposed from outside. That experience shaped the political instincts that still exist today. Because when a nation spends generations fighting to preserve identity, tradition becomes more than culture. It becomes survival. During communist rule, many institutions in Poland were controlled by the state. But one powerful force remained largely independent: the Catholic Church. Churches became places where people could speak more freely. Religious gatherings often carried quiet political meaning. Faith wasn't just about spirituality, it became a form of cultural resistance. Then something extraordinary happened. In 1978, a Polish cardinal was elected Pope. His name? Pope John Paul II. For millions of Poles, this moment felt historic. Here was someone who understood Poland's struggle standing at the center of global Christianity. When John Paul II visited Poland in 1979, millions gathered in public spaces across the country. His message was simple but powerful. Do not be afraid. Those words inspired a growing movement that would soon challenge the communist system, and that movement changed Europe. In 1980, workers at the Gdańsk shipyard launched a strike that would become one of the most important political movements in modern European history. The movement was called Solidarity. Led by electrician Lech Wałęsa, Solidarity demanded workers' rights, political reforms, and eventually democratic change. At its peak, nearly 10 million people joined the movement. For a communist country, that was unprecedented. The government tried to suppress it with martial law. But the movement didn't disappear. Over the next decade, Solidarity continued pushing for reform, eventually leading to the fall of communist rule in 1989. Poland became the first country in Eastern Europe to peacefully dismantle its communist system, and that victory left a lasting imprint. Because the ideology that collapsed was not just authoritarian, it was aggressively secular, internationalist, and dismissive of national tradition. In the decades that followed, many Poles associated freedom with the very things communism tried to suppress: faith, nationhood, family. By the time communism ended in 1989, Western Europe had already been changing for decades. Religious participation had declined dramatically. Societies were becoming more secular and multicultural. Political debates increasingly centered around liberal social policies. Poland entered the modern democratic era with a completely different background. The country had spent 40 years resisting an imposed political ideology. As a result, many citizens remained cautious toward new ideological trends arriving from abroad. That caution often shows up in debates over issues like family policy, religious expression in public life, national sovereignty. Another important difference lies in demographics. Unlike countries such as France, Germany, or the United Kingdom, Poland didn't experience large post-colonial immigration waves during the late 20th century. This meant cultural change occurred more gradually, and political conversations developed along different lines. But that's only part of the story, because Poland's modern political reputation also comes from the governments elected in the past decade. In 2015, a conservative political party called Law and Justice came to power. Led by Jarosław Kaczyński, the party promoted a platform built around several core ideas: stronger support for families, more state investment in social programs, greater emphasis on national sovereignty, and a political vision that placed tradition and religion closer to the center of public life. One of the most popular policies introduced during this period was a child benefit program known as 500+. The program significantly increased financial support for families raising children. For many households, it became one of the most visible examples of government support in everyday life. Supporters saw these policies as strengthening families and national stability. Critics argued that the government was undermining democratic institutions. These debates often dominated headlines across Europe. But something interesting happened in 2023. Polish voters once again reshaped the political landscape. In the 2023 parliamentary election, an opposition coalition led by Donald Tusk won enough seats to form a new government. The result surprised many observers outside the country. Some expected Poland's conservative direction to continue indefinitely. Instead, the election revealed a deeply divided society. Urban voters and younger generations often lean toward more liberal policies. Rural regions and older voters tend to support traditional political platforms. But here's the key insight: even when governments change, the underlying values shaping Polish politics remain powerful. Debates about national sovereignty, cultural identity, and family policy continue to influence elections. And Poland's role inside the European Union remains one of the most important questions facing the country. Today, Poland is not just another European country. It has become one of the fastest growing economies in the European Union. Its military is expanding rapidly, and its geopolitical position has become critical since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Poland is now one of the strongest supporters of Ukraine and one of the most vocal critics of Russia inside NATO. That influence means Poland's political direction affects the entire region. If conservative ideas remain strong, Poland could shape future debates about sovereignty, security, and culture across Europe. But if younger generations move politics in a different direction, the country may evolve in ways that surprise both supporters and critics. And that's why the question from the beginning still matters. Is Poland truly Europe's last conservative power? Or is the country simply following its own unique path shaped by history, culture, and experience? Poland's political identity cannot be reduced to simple labels. The country carries centuries of struggle, survival, and transformation. That history created a society where tradition still holds real influence, but where political debate remains intense and evolving. and the decisions made by Polish voters in the coming years will likely shape not only the country's future, but also the future of Europe itself. Curious to hear another perspective. Do current political changes signal a lasting shift? Or is Poland's conservative identity stronger than many analysts think? Share thoughts in the comments. And if this deep dive into Poland's political story was interesting, consider liking the video, subscribing to The Poland, and sharing the episode with someone interested in Europe's future. Because the story of Poland is far from finished.